This army chief's son waved his father's badge, until Judge Judy's sentence shocked the courtroom. Imagine walking into a courtroom thinking your father's rank makes you bulletproof. You stride through those double doors with the confidence of someone who's never heard the word no, someone who believes that stars on a uniform shine bright enough to blind justice itself. In 10 minutes, you'll learn that privilege doesn't translate, that borrowed authority crumbles under the weight of real accountability, and that some judges don't care if your father commands 50,000 soldiers or 50 million. This is the story of Derek Hartwell, 22 years old, son of a 4-star general, and the moment his world came crashing down in the most public way imaginable. The date is Thursday, March 16. The location is Providence Municipal Courthouse, courtroom number 3. The time is 9:45 in the morning. The bailiff's voice cuts through the quiet murmur of the gallery. The state of Rhode Island versus Derek James Hartwell. The doors open, and in walks a young man who looks like he's dressed for a photo shoot rather than a court appearance. He's wearing a military surplus jacket, the kind with patches and insignias that he absolutely did not earn. Hanging around his neck are dog tags, vintage, worn, his father's from decades ago, treated like designer jewelry. His boots are $400 Oakley tactical models, polished to a mirror shine. He walks with the kind of swagger that announces to everyone in the room that he's different, that he's special, that the rules bending around normal people somehow curve around him entirely. Judge Judy Sheindlin sits at the bench, her reading glasses perched on her nose, reviewing a file that's thicker than it should be for someone so young. She looks up as Derek approaches the defendant's table, and her expression is neutral, patient, the calm before a storm that Derek Hartwell has no idea is coming. "Good morning, Mr. Hartwell," she says, her voice steady and professional. Derek doesn't stand straighter. He doesn't remove the sunglasses he's still wearing indoors. He glances up briefly and responds with a casual "yeah, not your honor, not ma'am, just yeah," like he's acknowledging someone who asked him the time on a street corner. Judge Judy notices immediately. Her eyes narrow slightly, but she doesn't react yet. She's a veteran of entitled defendants, and she knows that patience is a weapon sharper than any gavel strike. The bailiff reads the charges, and the list is longer than Derek expected. Reckless driving, 85 miles per hour in a 40-mile-per-hour zone near the gates of Fort Bragg. Fleeing a military police checkpoint without stopping for authorized personnel. Threatening a federal officer with career retaliation and abuse of authority. Unauthorized display of military credentials belonging to another individual. Attempting to impersonate an active duty officer to evade lawful detention. The charges hang in the air, each one a brick in a wall that's closing in on Derek faster than he realizes. He shifts his weight from one expensive boot to the other, arms crossed over his chest, projecting boredom. He's still wearing the sunglasses. Judge Judy sets down the file and folds her hands. "Mr. Hartwell, do you understand the charges that have been read against you?" Derek shrugs, a lazy roll of his shoulders. "Yeah, I get it. This is all blown way out of proportion. I was late for a meeting, and some overzealous MP decided to make an example out of me." Judge Judy's gaze doesn't waver. "Mr. Hartwell, remove your sunglasses when you're addressing this court." Derek sighs like he's being asked to do something incredibly unreasonable, but he slowly pulls the sunglasses off and hangs them from the collar of his jacket. His eyes are sharp, calculating, the eyes of someone who's spent his entire life figuring out how to get what he wants. "This is ridiculous," he mutters, just loud enough for the microphone to catch. "I shouldn't even be here." Judge Judy leans forward slightly. "But you are here, Mr. Hartwell. And unless you want me to add contempt of court to your growing list of charges, I suggest you adjust your attitude and show this proceeding the respect it deserves." Derek's jaw tightens, but he doesn't respond. He's smart enough to recognize danger when it's staring him in the face, even if he doesn't fully respect it. Judge Judy opens the file again and begins reading aloud. "Mr. Hartwell, this isn't your first interaction with law enforcement on or near military installations. I see here that you received a written warning 8 months ago for parking in a reserved space at Fort Carson and refusing to move your vehicle until base security was called. You told the officer, and I quote, 'My father is General Hartwell, which means this spot is now mine.' Is that accurate?" Derek shifts uncomfortably. "That was a misunderstanding. They didn't have the spot clearly marked." Judge Judy flips another page. "And 3 months ago, you were escorted off the campus of West Point after attempting to use your father's credentials to gain access to a restricted officers event you weren't invited to. You told the security personnel that your family status entitled you to be anywhere your father's rank allowed. Correct?" Derek's confident facade cracks just slightly. "Look, Your Honor, I think you're missing the bigger picture here. My father has spent 35 years serving this country. He's sacrificed everything for the military. That means something. It should mean something." Judge Judy closes the file with a sharp snap that echoes through the courtroom. Mr. Hartwell, your father's service means everything to the people who serve under him, to the country he protects, and to the values he represents. But what it doesn't mean is that you get to coast through life on his achievements, using his rank as a free pass to do whatever you want. Derek's face hardens. With respect, Your Honor, you don't understand how the military works. There are hierarchies, structures, unspoken rules about respect and recognition. Judge Judy's voice cuts through his excuse like a blade through paper. I understand perfectly, Mr. Hartwell. What you're describing isn't respect, it's nepotism, it's corruption, and it ends right here, right now, in my courtroom. Judge Judy gestures to the prosecution table, and the assistant district attorney stands, holding a tablet and a folder thick with documents. Your Honor, we have body camera footage from the incident in question, recorded by Military Police Sergeant Elena Vasquez on the night of March 8 at approximately 11:30 p.m. We request permission to play this footage for the court. Judge Judy nods. Permission granted. Let's see exactly what happened that night. The courtroom lights dim slightly as a large monitor flickers to life. The timestamp in the corner reads March 8, 11:27 p.m. The camera shows a dark road just outside the main gates of Fort Bragg, streetlights casting long shadows across the pavement. In the distance, a black sports car weaves erratically through light traffic, engine roaring loud enough to be picked up on the audio feed. The patrol car's dashboard camera captures the chase as Sergeant Vasquez activates her lights and sirens. The sports car doesn't slow down. Instead, it accelerates, blowing through a stop sign near the base perimeter where military families live, where children ride bikes during the day, where soldiers walk home after long shifts. The car finally screeches to a stop in a poorly lit parking area near a row of closed shops. The body camera footage switches to Sergeant Vasquez's perspective as she approaches the vehicle, her hand resting near her sidearm, her voice calm and professional despite the adrenaline of the chase. License, registration, and military ID please, she says through the driver's side window. Derek's face appears on screen, illuminated by her flashlight, and his expression is one of pure annoyance rather than concern. Military ID. He scoffs. I'm not military. I'm family. That's better. Sergeant Vasquez maintains her composure. Sir, you were traveling 85 miles per hour in a 40-mile-per-hour zone. This area is residential. There are children who live here. Derek leans back in his seat, his voice dripping with condescension. Children should learn to stay indoors after dark. I had the right of way. The courtroom gasps audibly. Even Derek's lawyer closes his eyes and pinches the bridge of his nose. Judge Judy's expression remains neutral, but her knuckles are white as she grips her pen. On screen, Sergeant Vasquez continues. Sir, the right of way doesn't include reckless driving and evading a military police checkpoint. I'm going to need you to step out of the vehicle. Derek doesn't move. Instead, he reaches into his jacket and pulls out a leather credential case. He flips it open, holding it up to the camera so the badge and identification card are clearly visible. See this? General Marcus Hartwell. Chief of Staff. Your commanding officer's commanding officer's commanding officer. You really want to write me up, Sergeant? The way he says her rank makes it sound like an insult, like he's reminding her of how far below him she stands in some imaginary hierarchy that exists only in his mind. Sergeant Vasquez's voice remains steady, but there's an edge to it now. Sir, those credentials don't belong to you. That's my father's badge, which means it's my badge. Family privilege. It's a thing. Look it up. Sergeant Vasquez takes a measured breath on the footage, her professionalism never wavering despite the clear provocation. Sir, I'm going to issue you a citation for reckless driving and failure to stop at a military checkpoint. Derek's expression transforms from smug confidence to cold menace in an instant. His voice drops lower, more threatening. Sergeant Vasquez, is it? Let me explain something to you. My father didn't spend 3 decades building his career so that some overachiever with a badge could harass his family. You write that citation, and I guarantee you'll spend the rest of your very short military police career reviewing inventory sheets in some supply depot in Alaska. Ever been to Elmendorf Air Force Base in January? It's -40 degrees, and you'll have plenty of time to think about this moment. The courtroom falls into complete silence. Even the court reporter stops typing momentarily, shocked by the brazenness of the threat captured on camera. Sergeant Vasquez's voice remains controlled, but the camera picks up the slight tension in her shoulders. Are you threatening me, sir? Derek laughs, a sharp, ugly sound. I'm not threatening you. I'm educating you about reality. One phone call from my father and you're done. Or you could tear up that citation right now, we both forget this happened, and you continue your little career without any complications. Your choice, Sergeant. The footage continues as Sergeant Vasquez, to her enormous credit, proceeds to write the citation despite the threats. Derek's anger escalates. He steps out of the car without being asked, getting into her personal space, his voice rising. You're making a huge mistake. My father didn't build a 35-year career in the United States Army so weekend warriors like you could power trip on his family. Do you understand who you're messing with? The camera shows Sergeant Vasquez handing him the citation, her hand remarkably steady. Sir, you'll receive a court date by mail. Please drive safely. Derek snatches the paper from her hand, crumples it into a ball, and throws it on the ground at her feet. This isn't over, he says, jabbing his finger toward her face. Not even close. Judge Judy signals for the footage to be paused. The frozen image on screen shows Derek's face twisted in rage, his finger inches from Sergeant Vasquez's face, the crumpled citation on the ground between them. The judge removes her glasses slowly and sets them on the bench. Mr. Hartwell, you just watched yourself threaten a federal officer, attempt to use your father's credentials to evade lawful detention, and demonstrate complete contempt for military authority. Do you have anything to say? Derek shifts in his chair, some of his earlier confidence draining away. Your Honor, that video doesn't show the full context. She was antagonizing me from the beginning. She had an attitude. Judge Judy's voice cuts through his excuse like ice. Mr. Hartwell, I watched the same footage you did. Sergeant Vasquez was nothing but professional while you behaved like a spoiled child throwing a tantrum because someone dared to hold you accountable. Judge Judy turns to the prosecution table. I'd like to hear from Sergeant Vasquez directly. Is she available to testify? The prosecutor nods and calls her name. The courtroom doors open, and Sergeant Elena Vasquez enters in her dress uniform, her posture straight, her face composed but showing the emotional weight of the past weeks. She takes the witness stand, raises her right hand, and swears to tell the truth. Judge Judy's expression softens slightly, a rare moment of visible empathy. Sergeant Vasquez, thank you for being here today. Can you tell the court about your career in the military police? Sergeant Vasquez speaks clearly, her voice strong despite the difficulty of the situation. Your Honor, I've served 12 years in the military police. I've completed 3 deployments overseas, received 2 commendations for exemplary service, and maintained a spotless disciplinary record. I'm a single mother of 2 children who live with me on base. My job is to keep our military community safe, to enforce the rules that protect everyone equally, regardless of rank or family connections. That night on March 8th, I was simply doing my job. Judge Judy nods encouragingly. What happened after you issued the citation? Sergeant Vasquez's composure cracked slightly, her voice tightening with emotion. Within 24 hours, I was called into my commanding officer's office. There were questions about my conduct, my judgment during the traffic stop, whether I had been unnecessarily aggressive or shown bias. I felt like I was being investigated for doing exactly what I was trained to do. For 3 weeks, I didn't know if my career was over because I had dared to hold someone accountable. Judge Judy's jaw tightens. Did you ever consider tearing up that citation to avoid the harassment? Sergeant Vasquez meets her eyes directly. Not for 1 second, Your Honor. Because if I had, what would that teach my children? What would it teach every service member who saw me back down? That rules only apply to some people. That threats work if they come from the right family. I took an oath to uphold the law, and that oath doesn't have exceptions for inconvenient situations. The courtroom erupts in scattered applause before the bailiff calls for order. Derek slouches lower in his chair, his earlier arrogance completely evaporated. Judge Judy thanks Sergeant Vasquez and allows her to step down, but before she can return to her seat, the courtroom doors open again. A man enters in full dress uniform, his chest covered in medals and ribbons that represent decades of service and sacrifice. The 4 stars on his shoulders catch the light, and the entire courtroom instinctively rises to attention. General Marcus Hartwell walks down the center aisle, his face a mask of controlled emotion, and Derek's face drains of all color. Dad, he whispers, barely audible. General Hartwell doesn't look at his son. He approaches the bench and addresses Judge Judy with crisp military precision. Your Honor, I apologize for the interruption. I'm General Marcus Hartwell, United States Army Chief of Staff, and I'm here regarding the case against my son. Judge Judy gestures to a seat in the front row. General, you're welcome to observe, but I won't discuss the case outside the record. General Hartwell remains standing. I understand, Your Honor. I'm not here to interfere or request leniency. I'm here to ensure my son receives no special treatment whatsoever because of my position. In fact, I'm here to state publicly that his actions are a disgrace to everything I've spent my career building. He turned to face Derek for the first time, his voice cold and measured. Stand up. Derek slowly rises, his legs visibly shaking. You will address me as General Hartwell. You haven't earned the right to call me Dad right now. What you did doesn't just reflect on you, it reflects on every soldier who's ever worn this uniform, on every military family that lives by the values of honor and integrity. General Hartwell's words hang in the air like smoke from a battlefield. Derek stands frozen, his face pale, his earlier bravado completely shattered. The general continues, his voice carrying the authority of 3 decades of command. Your Honor, I want to be absolutely clear. My son will receive no financial assistance from me for any fines imposed by this court. He will have no access to family resources, no safety net, no bailout. He's 22 years old, legally an adult, and he will face these consequences as an adult. Furthermore, I want to personally apologize to Sergeant Vasquez. He turns to face her, and she stands immediately, coming to attention. Sergeant, you did your duty with honor and professionalism. My son's attempt to weaponize my rank against you is an insult to everything the uniform represents. Thank you for your service, and I'm sorry you had to endure the aftermath of his actions. Sergeant Vasquez salutes, tears visible in her eyes but her voice steady. No apology necessary, sir. I was doing my job. General Hartwell returns the salute, then takes his seat in the front row, his back ramrod straight, his eyes forward. He doesn't look at Derek again. Judge Judy waits for the moment to settle, then turns her attention back to the defendant. Mr. Hartwell, sit down. Derek collapses into his chair like a puppet with cut strings. Judge Judy picks up her pen and begins writing, the scratch of ink on paper the only sound in the courtroom. After what feels like an eternity, she sets the pen down and looks directly at Derek. Mr. Hartwell, I've been on this bench for many years. I've seen entitled defendants before, people who think money or connections put them above the law. But your case is particularly troubling because you didn't just break traffic laws, you attempted to corrupt the entire system of military justice. You used your father's rank as a weapon against someone who was simply doing her job. You threatened a decorated service member's career because she refused to give you special treatment. And based on your testimony and attitude today, you still don't fully understand why that's wrong. Derek opens his mouth to speak, but Judge Judy raises her hand. I'm not finished. Your father spent 35 years earning his rank through sacrifice, leadership, and dedication to protecting this country. You spent 30 seconds trying to use it as a get-out-of-jail-free card. That ends today. Judge Judy picks up her prepared sentencing document. For the charge of reckless driving at nearly twice the speed limit in a residential area near a military installation, I'm fining you $10,000. For threatening and attempting to intimidate a federal officer in the lawful performance of her duties, an additional $15,000. For unauthorized use and display of military credentials not issued to you, $2,500. Total financial penalty, $27,500, to be paid from your personal employment income only. Your bank statements will be reviewed by this court. Any deposit from family members will void this arrangement, and I will impose the maximum jail sentence allowed by law. Do you understand? Derek nods weakly, unable to speak. Furthermore, your driving privileges are suspended for 3 full years. No hardship exemptions, no work permits, no special circumstances. You'll use public transportation like millions of Americans do every single day. Additionally, you are sentenced to 150 hours of community service, to be served at the Fort Bragg Military Police Station under the direct supervision of Sergeant Elena Vasquez. You will report every Saturday and Sunday morning at 6 a.m. for 8-hour shifts. You'll clean vehicles, organize equipment, and assist with traffic safety education programs. You will learn what it means to serve rather than to be served. Derek's voice cracks as he tries to protest. Your Honor, please, working under her supervision, she hates me. Judge Judy's response is swift and sharp. Sergeant Vasquez doesn't hate you, Mr. Hartwell. She doesn't know you well enough to hate you. But by the time you complete your sentence, she'll know exactly what kind of man you choose to become. That's up to you. But there's more. You will also complete a speaking tour at 10 military academies, ROTC programs, and high schools with military families. You'll present on the topic of privilege, accountability, and what happens when someone mistakes inherited status for personal character. Your presentations will include the body camera footage we watched today. No scripts, no polish, just honest accountability. Judge Judy leans forward, her final words measured and deliberate. Mr. Hartwell, you walked into this courtroom thinking your father's stars made you untouchable. You're leaving with a suspended license, $27,000 in fines, 150 hours of service under the woman you tried to destroy, and the knowledge that your father, the man whose rank you exploited, is ashamed of you. Justice doesn't salute, Mr. Hartwell. It doesn't care about your last name or your connections. It only cares about your actions. The gavel comes down with a sharp crack that echoes through the silent courtroom. Case closed. Derek is led out by the bailiff, his head down, his expensive boots shuffling against the floor. General Hartwell doesn't turn to watch him go. Sergeant Vasquez stands tall, vindicated. And Judge Judy closes the file on Derek James Hartwell, another entitled defendant who learned that in her courtroom, privilege means nothing and accountability means everything. 6 months later, Derek completes his final community service shift. Sergeant Vasquez signs off on his paperwork without fanfare. He's different now, quieter, humbler, though whether the change is real or just survival instinct remains to be seen. His father still hasn't spoken to him privately. That relationship, like respect itself, will have to be earned back one honest action at a time. Some badges can't be borrowed. Some lessons can't be bought. And some prices must be paid in full.